Moshe coming to you from Israel in the Galilee. Perhaps you've heard of Israel, of the Galilee in your Bible, huh? It's July 2nd, it's Tuesday. So I guess, let's see, Wednesday's the third, Thursday. I guess the people have a 4-day weekend pretty much in America, Thursday through Sunday. Although the government offices will just close on Thursday. That's normally the way they work it. So our weather is still not so unbearable. It's 83 now, high of 92. So please pray our temperatures don't get so hot in my area, please. Please. Thank you. Haven't made a lot of progress on the generator. What we did decide to do yesterday was buy a bunch of canning jars because we ran out. So we're increasing our amount of canning jars and taking the meat out of the freezer and canning it. And she's also making banana bread that's delicious. That's canned and other things. She's also making some shelf-stable bread pastry things. We're not worried about this because if nothing happens, we can just eat it, you know. It's food. But if something does happen and our power is out, we don't have a problem. We do have an excellent outdoor grill barbecue that works on propane gas that makes excellent food, and we got enough propane for quite a few months. So I'm not finished with the working on the generator yet. We're still in that process. Someone told me that I could build a box around the generator to muffle the noise, and I agree that would work, but it would also be a bad idea when you have excessive temperatures because the heat would build up in the generator and probably cause it to stall out or maybe lock up or who knows what. So that's something that we wouldn't really be wanting to do. But I think that there'll be enough generators sounding off around the village that it won't be a problem. But anyway, we're moving there. A German newspaper based on their intel sources, a big paper in Germany, not a little rag, said that they believe the invasion of Lebanon would be in the third or the fourth week of July. I tend to concur. Looking at what I'm seeing, Israel army is now at 560,000 strength with the reserves active, and that's a lot of army for a very small country like the size of Rhode Island. You know, it's maybe almost half the size of the American military, and the geography is like, I don't know, 1/50th, 1/80th of America, and we don't operate bases overseas. The bad news is that Israel has made their military into like their church or their temple. Very bad. I'll get into things as we progress. We got some interesting things about Iran, Russia, Ukraine. Not a lot of interesting things in the Asia-Pacific region today. That Hurricane Beryl's turned into a Category 5, I believe. Look, I'm not covering Beryl because those of you that live in the United States, I'm sure, are watching plenty of news reports about Hurricane Beryl. So I don't know why I need to be redundant. Yeah, it's a threat. We don't know where it's going to make landfall. You really don't know the exact. Well, I lived in Florida and went through many hurricanes. They're frightening, and they don't really know where it's going to make landfall till about probably 36 hours before it hits, sometimes even 24 hours. They might try to get pretty accurate at 48 hours, that could work, but it has to get very close. And the same with the intensity of the strength. It has to be close. It has to be very close before they can figure it out. And you got to remember, I've watched many hurricanes. As soon as they touch land, the second or the few seconds they hit land, they drop down one category number. So if they were a 3, they go to a 2. Okay? And then when they progress inland, maybe 10 miles or even less, they drop again. You know, so the damage, I went to the aftermath of some hurricanes. The damage is basically very severe for about 100 yards from the beach, counting the beach, and maybe 100 yards. If it's got large bands, maybe 200 yards or something like that. But 300 yards if it's a 5, 400 yards. But the massive damage doesn't happen very far inland. In other words, what I used to figure, if you were 10 miles inland and something came in that was a 5, you'd probably get hit as a 2, or you'd have winds, but your house would probably survive. There might be some flooding, but it would probably be not even over your shoes. You know, it wouldn't, they don't, now if you had, you know, a category 9, which we don't record anything more than a 5, you know, then it would go in, you know, 100 miles or 200 miles, but, you know. So I saw the damage, like at hotels on the beaches in Florida and houses right at the beach, is pretty bad. They get wiped out sometimes, you know, and then, you know, you have the sand in Florida that, you know, the beach, the sand, it goes back, in Florida, on the Gulf Coast, 60 yards anyway, something like that. And then you have a highway that's usually 2 lanes each direction. Some points it might be 1. Usually it's 2 each direction. And then you go to the other side of that highway, and the first row of houses may get some damage, or the second row. But, you know, it doesn't go that much inland, you know. Now there's risks of flooding, you know, that's a big problem. And a lot of it depends on where it makes landfall, you know. Some places take it better than others, you know. In Florida, they had a lot of houses that were in the Gulf of Mexico area that had were built right by the water's edge, or even sometimes, you know, right at the water. And they put the houses on stilts that were probably 25, 30 feet up. And they secured the stilts pretty good. And these houses tended to survive hurricanes because they wouldn't, the waves wouldn't wash over the house. They come with great force and demolish buildings. But the pylons that they put the house on, the wave wouldn't do much to them. They were round, it didn't have a lot of resistance, it would just go around it. Now the people evacuated, you know. My rule of thumb was, if it was going to be a 1, 2, or 3 category hurricane, I'd ride it out. And I was on a bayou, it's called. It was like a lake that connected out to the ocean, the Gulf of Mexico, okay, but it was a pretty serious set of connections. So we used to get like 6, 8 foot flooding, but it never hurt the house. It never really even came into the backyard. But I had a boat dock in the water, and it used to be at least 6 or 8 feet underwater. And it used to be about 1 or 2 feet above water usually. So I used to get up at night with a flashlight and go out there and look and see how far down the boat dock was. I'd usually wake up every 2 hours because I didn't want to be caught in a flood. And I had a 4x4 car, which would probably help a lot getting out. But you didn't have far to go. Once you got 400 or 500 yards away, which you could walk. You know, probably the flood would go from, down to, maybe to your ankles, or, something like that. Maybe over your ankles, but it wouldn't be a big deal. But they are frightening. And now, if it was going to be a 4, I would probably be very careful and watch it closely to decide if I was going to leave or not. If it was a 5, forget about it, I'd leave. A 4, I'd want to know what's going on, where the landfall is, how far away from it's going to be from me. Now I saw hurricanes hit like 120, 140 miles away from me, again on the Gulf, and the bayou in my backyard would get rather, it would go up quite a few feet, not 6 or 8 feet. It'd go up maybe 2.5 feet, 3 feet, maybe, usually 2 or 3 feet. It was scary, It wouldn't stay there. It'd go up for a few hours, and that was it. The winds are dangerous now. When I was there, I had a rented house, so I bought home contents insurance because I figured if, I wanted to get out of Dodge, I'd have the contents insured. And it's not a pleasant thing. It's very uncomfortable. So now you also got to remember that, for the last gazillion years, we've been seeing hurricanes hit America. So, okay? And we've seen 5s come in before. If I saw a 7 or an 8, I'd really pay a lot of attention. But 4s and 5s we got. Look, they're calling it a 5 out in the ocean now. A lot of it's going to depend on the water temperature and other factors. So, you don't know. Also, hurricanes turn around. They go different places. They shift unexpectedly. You don't know. You don't know. And I've seen them come in looking like 5s, and they come in as 3s or 2s. A 1 is not a lot. It's a storm. You got to batten down the hatches. You stay inside. You maybe could possibly have a power outage, so you make sure you got food and water. And we would sometimes fill a bathtub or 2 up so we could get a bucket and flush the toilet. And keep your cars, I always had 2 or 3 cars, keep the cars, all of them up, topped off. Now a 2 is, so the 1's, it's a few hours of inconvenience typically. And the 2s are a little bit more severe, but it's just more of the same. People's houses don't come down, the cars don't wash away, and, that kind of thing. Now, if you got a house right on the beach and you're hitting a 2, you may start getting 20-foot waves damaging your house. But that's where you're right on the beach, If you're 100, 200 yards in, it's probably not going to take your house down. Now at a 3, that's where you got to start paying close attention, and that can be dangerous. And a 4 is really dangerous. 5s are unbelievably dangerous. 4 is seriously dangerous. Okay, this is something I learned. The weather stations, when tsunamis, hurricanes, tornadoes, things like that are coming in, their viewership goes up by what? 10-fold. They got 10 times as many more people. So they sell their advertisements for much higher prices when this happens. So they'll beat the fear drum pretty good. They won't give you false information, but they'll caution you. And that's how they beat the fear drum. So, you gotta be careful about that. But in any way, shape, or form, something that's reaching 160 miles an hour now is undoubtedly a very life-threatening threat, and it's really serious. So, all right, I'm going to put a couple of posts up in the chat. I don't vote. I don't want to be a partaker in the evil deeds. I don't suggest anybody does. Como está? I'm fine, but we do English here. Sorry about that. All right, I'm going to put a couple of quick posts up in the chat. while people get a chance to come in. It'll be a good broadcast. I got some good stuff to open up for you today, especially about Biden. Almost done. I just want to put my email address up there. Now, if any of you want to send in Bible questions, Bible study questions during the chat, put it up in the chat. If you want more privacy, my email address is going to be at the top of the chat. Just email it to me. I do check the chat during the live streams, and if it's anything at all feasible, I'll take care of it. And I made a typo. Trying to get tomato juice delivered yesterday in my order, and they were out of it. Now I gotta put another order in. All right, was that the bird? Oh, we just had a canning jar break. Okay, I'm done with the posting. Now I'm going to do some quick praise, being a Bible-believing site. If you join in or not join in, it's entirely up to you. I have no control. There is no God like Jehovah. 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 There is no Messiah like Yeshua. 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 Okay, so why is Biden a threat? Apparently the Democrats have decided they're not going to change him as the candidate for the presidency. Okay? And I gave you the reason why. Because if they do, what happens is the people are going to turn right around and say he's too incompetent to run for the president's office. Let's get him out of there now. We got threats from North Korea, Iran, China, Russia, Belarus. Oh, come on, let's get him out. They could get him out, but then it reverts to Kamala Harris. And she's scary. I mean, people know who she is, the vice president, but she never does anything. So let's say they get her to say, well, I don't want the position. Then it reverts to the Speaker of the House. And people don't know much about who he is. So that's a scary proposition. So I think they're stuck with Biden. Now, Biden has to do something to up his popularity tremendously. And that something is not likely to be attacking China and North Korea. Why? If America got out of that alive, they'd probably lose a few 100,000 soldiers. And America would be messed up really bad. The world economy would be in shock. I don't think he wants that one. What about attacking Russia? Well, That's not that scary because they would send soldiers along with all the rest of NATO. And they might even convince the countries in the EU that are not in NATO to kick in and then distribute the load amongst themselves so nobody's going to suffer any big losses, except Russia. But that would likely evoke a response from China, which could mean an attack on their forces in Asia Pacific. North Korea hits South Korea, China hits Taiwan and Japan and the Philippines. So that's not something Biden's looking for. Of course, it's a very, very hard war, and it likely wouldn't be over by the election, but sometimes that helps because people don't want to change an administration during an election, so I wouldn't take that one completely off the table. But I don't think, you don't know, they may try it. What they're doing now is they moved 100 and something tanks and maybe close to 200 armored personnel carriers and some mobile artillery into Poland. America did. This would be defensive against Belarus threatening Poland on the border, you know. See, Putin is probably going to use Belarus as a satellite puppet state against NATO, like Iran uses Yemen and Gaza and Lebanon. Okay? Now, America and NATO are using Ukraine as a puppet satellite state against Russia. What do you think it is? That's exactly what it is. Okay? Yeah, in the last 24 hours or maybe less, Ukraine hit Belgorod inside Russia with ATACMs, those long-range HIMARS missiles. And they hit a place in Sevastopol where Russia has a lot of their Navy parked. Now, I don't know if they hit the Navy ships or what happened, but I know they hit the city. So they're keeping intense pressure on Russia. Russia's got to make a move. Because the F-16s are coming to Ukraine. So the HIMARS missiles, of which they got a higher range, I think they're up to 160 miles now or something like that, will take out any Russian radar and air defenses. And the F-16s will go in and start bombing military strategic targets in Russia near the border, of which there's an abundant near the Ukraine border. And they'll just keep peeling the layers back, and then Putin's going to be in dire straits, and he knows it. Putin's not a village idiot. He knows that's trouble. Putin knows he's in trouble. And he's trying to strategize out of it. So, Biden needs a military victory in current events to make him look good to the Democrats that don't want him anymore, and to make him look good to the public so he can get votes. Okay? Knocking off Lebanon's not going to do it. It's just a stepping stone. What would do it is knocking off Iran. Who in America likes Iran? Nobody. And Palestinians run around, oh, genocide in Gaza, blah, blah. People's the poor people in Gaza, right? In Lebanon, it's not going to play so well because they're not the official government, they're terrorists that the people don't want and all that. if he hit the Houthis, people would like it, but it's not a big thing. Probably if you did surveys in America, I would say 90 to 95% of the people walking around above ground in America could not tell you where Yemen is. I'm telling you the truth. They wouldn't know where it is. They probably don't even know about the attacking the ships. They just attacked 3 ships in the last 24 hours again. Merchant marine vessels. So that's not going to get them anywhere. When you talk about Iran, probably 70% of the United States wouldn't be able to tell you accurately where Iran is, but they would know it's in the Middle East. And they would know Iran's a bunch of bad dogs. Terrorists that threatens America. So if he knocks off Iran, he gets an amazing jolt up in the polls. He could double or even more. But he has to do it without losing 60,000 soldiers or anything like that. So, how do you do that? Air attacks. Lots and lots of air attacks on Iran. You start with military targets, radar, air bases, military runways, factories that make weapons, weapon storage facilities, intelligence and command centers, where they keep their tanks, all this kind of stuff. That would take some days, 4, 5, 6, 7 days. And Iran would seek a response. So they would probably declare a no-fly zone over Iran and out pretty far into the Persian Gulf, for whatever good that would do them. Not much, because the radar would be out. But they do have radar on warships. That's good. So, not only would Iran declare a no-fly zone, they would declare a no naval traffic zone in the Persian Gulf anywhere near them. Or they might say the whole Persian Gulf. So then America would have to take out their Navy boats that have sophisticated radar, which is maybe a maximum of 5 or 6. Maximum. The go-fast boats would be deployed, destroyed, they'd probably cause some damage. Not to American vessels, they'd make sure that didn't happen, or if it happened, it'd be very slight. And then the bombing would, of course, include their nuclear facilities with bunker buster bombs, and Biden would say, we stopped Iran from shooting nukes into Washington, D.C., New York, Miami, Atlanta, stuff like that, London, or wherever. And I'm a hero, and the people would buy it. If Iran kept acting up, then they would go in deeper. They would start making gross attacks on military bases, not caring how much military personnel was on the base or anything else. They would just hit the bases at large. Because America doesn't care about genocide. They can veto anything at the UN Security Council. What's going to happen? They don't care. And what kind of genocide are you going to get going on a military base anyway? Not much of anything. It won't play. And then if that fails, which it probably will, they'll start taking out the the grid, the internet, the phones, the cell towers, the electric generators, pipelines for oil and gas, the piers and the ports where they offload the natural gas and oil onto ships, oil refineries, oil wells, whatever, and send Iran into the dark ages. And that's why we read in Jeremiah 49 that all the people in Iran, well, it's Elam, which would be southwestern Iran, parts of Iraq and Syria, and we know Iraq and Syria are in tight Iran. And they leave not just Iran, but the parts of Iraq and Syria, you could probably say Iraq and Syria, and go to all the different countries in the world in a captivity. That's going to happen. And America's going to do it with her allies. Iran can't defend itself against an air attack? No. They could defend themselves in a crazy way against naval attacks by launching, I don't know, a year ago they had 1,500 go-fast boats. They probably got 2,500 now. Or 2,000 or something, and launched these craft at ships in mass. Swarm attack, you know. And these ships can shoot a 50 caliber gun, maybe they put a 20 millimeter in there. Some have anti-ship missiles, they can carry shoulder-fired anti-tank missiles which will work against the ship. RPGs, if they're armor-piercing, they're going to be damaging ships. They can put torpedoes in the water off the side of the boat, the go-fast boat, and aim it by pointing the nose of the boat at the target ship. They could turn them into suicide drones, which the Italians did in World War II. You take a boat and put 4,000 or 5,000 pounds of explosives in it. You put two guys on the boat with wetsuits. They drive the boat at the go-fast suicide boat at the ship they want to attack, and they steer it into the boat, and probably when they're 200-300 yards away, maybe even closer, they just jump in the water. They lock the steering wheel and the throttle in place and just jump in the water and go down under the water. So if they got 20, 25 feet under the water, 200, 300, 400 yards away, and there's a big explosion, it's not going to do a lot to them. The deeper down they go, the less they'll feel it. And even if you put 2,000 pounds of explosives on the boat, which is much easier to do, it's going to blow huge holes in the boat. Huge. And it's going to explode at the waterline. So the boat may take water and sink. Now, these ships have defenses, but if they took one or two go-fast suicide boats to ram and blow up warships, they'll probably get shut out of the water. But if they send 35 of them at the same time, they only need one to get through. That's all they need. So I don't think America's going to be too quick to move their naval vessels near Iran. They might keep them out in the Sea of Oman or something like that. An air attack sounds perfect for them. Now, that would stop the Houthis in the minds of the Biden administration and the Lebanese Hezbollah. That's in the mind of the Biden administration. What our IDF is stating is interesting. They're saying that the Hezbollah in Lebanon, when the invasion starts, are going to evacuate out of Lebanon. They're going to go up into Syria. And then from Syria work their way over towards the Iraq border and stay there. This is so they can be alive to attack us again another day. They know they're just going to get killed if they stay there. Now, what they'll likely be doing there is hook up with the Iranian-backed militias in Iraq and Syria and avidly attack American bases in the region, starting in Iraq and Syria, and then possibly expanding to knocking off other countries. Jordan would be high on their list. I don't know who else. Kuwait's high on their list. Bahrain and Qatar are high on their list. The UAE and Saudi, the way it looks, they've already submitted to Iran, so I don't think they're going to have a lot of interest in destroying them now. Why? So Iran came up with an interesting comment. They said that they cannot send their IRGC troops to Lebanon to help the Hezbollah. They said their hands are tied. Now, what's going on with that? First of all, they probably mean it. Second of all, there's only two countries that could put that kind of pressure on Iran, and that's China and Russia, who happen to both be in mutual defense treaties with Iran. So what they tell Iran is to say, look, these treaties are like, if you get attacked, it's not an excuse for you to go around and start getting into wars with these people and then expecting us to come over to the Middle East, leaving our own countries exposed in these crucial times to help you get out of a war you started. Russia didn't give the keys to the kingdom to Iran. Russia's not letting Iran control when Russia goes to war with big countries like the US and the UK. Russia's not crazy, neither is China. So Iran's cooling its jets, but it's probably going to use its proxies. The amount of missiles and rockets coming in from Lebanon is now substantially reduced. Believe me, I notice it. I don't hear the red alerts going off around in Israel any it's probably down by 75%, maybe more. Much quieter. Yet Israel is still attacking targets in Lebanon every day, prepping for the invasion. We still have a small amount of trouble in Gaza. They got some missiles off yesterday into Israel, into the south of Israel from Gaza. We shut that down. You know, little things will happen. They probably went a good 2 weeks without sending any real amount of missiles. You know, they sent 20 out. So, that's nice, and it shows Hezbollah is scared. The Israeli IDF didn't make this stuff up. Their intelligence analysts probably think this is the best thing. Instead of just hiding in Lebanon, they can go there and wage war on America. by hitting American bases in the Middle East. They're saying the Houthis in Yemen may try to enter Israel near Gaza through African countries. It might happen. I don't think so, but maybe it'll happen. I don't know. So where Biden's going to get the most bang for his buck is attacking Iran. Hands down. Because he'll win. There's no reason for Iran to win. There's no reason for Russia and China to dedicate a lot of their military assets to defending Iran, other than a contract they signed with them, and well, you know how that goes. So it's looking more and more like America will get into the fight with Iran. So far, they have 2 of these amphibious landing ships over here with another craft with it, military. These are what's called the small aircraft carriers. They could launch 8 to 12 vertical takeoff jets, and usually they can have about, I don't know the exact amount, 20 or 30 attack helicopters. Then in the body of the boat, they carry a small amount of tanks, armored personnel carriers, rocket launcher, missile launchers, well, things like that. So I think this is Biden's end run. Now, we seem to have seen maybe a turning of the state of mind of the Biden administration against Hamas, because he's now saying it's Hamas's fault that there's no ceasefire. So he's shifting the blame from Israel to Hamas. Hamas is saying, what good does a temporary ceasefire do us, even if it's 6 weeks? And they're saying, we're not giving the hostages up unless we get hostages back from the terrorists inside Israeli jails. And they're usually going to want somewhere between 30 terrorists in Israeli jails to 100 such people for every single hostage. These people would go to Gaza, arm up, and turn right around fighting Israel. Israel's not real interested in this. To put it mildly, Netanyahu is completely dedicated to nothing but a complete victory where Hamas does not survive, Hamas does not run the local government. Hamas is defunct. In which case, Iran and the other Arab states would not continue giving money to Hamas. What for? They're throwing money away. They want performance results for their millions and millions and millions of dollars. They're not going to just shovel money at these idiots in Hezbollah or Hamas just because of what they did in the past. These are cold-hearted people with, ice for blood. They're not going to give in. They're not going to go for supporting these idiots if they throw the towel in. There is no option of them throwing the towel in. It doesn't exist. They can't do it. Can't open this thing. They can't throw the towel in. They got no towel. They throw the towel in, they're out of work. And then where are they going to go? Iran may not give them safe harbor. What are they going to do? They're going to wind up getting in front of a military tribunal in Israel. Israel is more than likely not going to execute them. And they're going to get lifetime in an Israeli jail under terrible conditions. And that's that. So they don't have a way to go. No, Yaffa, no. They got to stay in the fight. Okay? And they will stay in the fight. They're not going anywhere. They're not giving up. They're not going to go and, do the right thing. And they're in it to win it. They're in it to fight to the end. They're in it to kill themselves and become martyrs. They're nuts. What you're dealing with here is nothing but the criminally insane. That's exactly what you got on your hands here. It's the criminally insane. And there is no safe harbor for them. There's no way to go. And most people don't understand this, but they don't have an option. Okay, now what the leaders will be told is if it really gets bad, get over to Egypt and we'll work with Egypt and they'll fly you to Iran and you'll live in Iran. But that's going to be for maybe 100 people. The rest of them are going to live in the pit dead. So, scripture is they shall swoop down on the shoulders of the Philistines. This has happened. But because it's just the year of recompenses for a little while longer, we have not gotten the land back. That'll happen in redemption, which I would say the latest is the first few days of August. And then we get our inheritance back, of which Gaza is part of it. So, because it's the year of recompenses, Hamas got their head handed to them. Gaza is a junk heap. The streets are gone, the traffic lights are gone, the parking is gone, the paved streets and sidewalks are gone. Probably by now 90-something percent, 92, 93% of all the buildings in Gaza have suffered damage or they're not usable anymore. The claims about genocide are idiotic. There's no genocide. The claims about starvation are idiotic. There's no starvation. Now, Hamas is also hanging on because they get intel and they realize there's going to be a big attack on Israel, and we realize it. It's in Zechariah 12. And it's coming right down to showtime. And they're probably hoping to be able to rush out of the border and attack the Jews in southern Israel or something like that. The word Hezbollah means God's army. Did you know that? I believe that's in Arabic, not Hebrew. I don't know any Hebrew word called Hezbollah. But it's not, I don't think there is such a word. So, Israel every day is hitting targets in Lebanon that will make the invasion easier and easier for Israel. Now, Iran may have a green light from Russia and China to missile attack Israel. if we invade Lebanon, which I'm pretty sure we will. Not 100%, but it looks like it. Now, that would likely cause response of a magnitude that would be very high, Israel against Iran. They might do it, they may not do it. I see no sign of Russian warships being deployed to the Persian Gulf to try to intercept Israeli missiles and drones. It has not happened, it may happen. And also the warships would attempt to shoot down Israeli planes, which I don't think they could do. They would probably have to send at least 2 warships, if not 4, to give Iran a lot of coverage. Now, I don't see any signs of this. Nor do I see any signs of China sending warships to help them. So Russia and China probably told Iran, cool, we got our own plan and our own problems. If we conquered Israel today and occupied it and everything else, it's still not going to help us with our problems in Asia Pacific and NATO and Europe. I mean, that's stretching it, but they're saying we got our own problems on the home front and we could get invaded, so we can't go deal with this. If you want to do it, we'll try to give you weapons, we'll support you with the UN, blah, 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 but we ain't sending our armies over here to help you. Stand down. So Iran says the IRGC's hands are tied. Now, is it possible that the Hezbollah evacuates to Syria near Iraq? Thus, the southern part of Lebanon, where most of the civilians have evacuated, probably a vast majority, is, Israel invades, they're all over South Lebanon, Hezbollah takes off, and then Iran launches a missile attack into South Lebanon, knowing they're going to, 98% just kill Israeli soldiers. First, they got to hit Lebanon. Second, they got to hit it accurately. And third, Israel's going to come back at them and start punching them in the teeth with spiked brass knuckles, In one afternoon, Israel could take out all the Iranian oil refineries and all their piers where they offload natural gas into the ships and all their pipelines for oil and natural gas in one afternoon. And Iran would not be in the dark ages immediately, but it would be well on its way to economic failure and revolution. But that's not the greatest plan because it didn't deactivate Iran. So if Iran walks the walk that Russia wants, Russia's telling Iran that they'll help them, probably with planes, boats, soldiers. But the help that Russia could give would only be to stop a ground invasion into Iran. And you're not going to see a ground invasion into Iran. You're only going to see airstrikes with B-1s, B-2s, stealthy F-16s, F-35s, F-22s. And you may see the naval warship-fired missiles. That's it. I mean, Russia and China don't have the capability to do any good takedowns. Plus, I haven't seen them moving any warships to the area. The whole story that America's sending those 2 amphibious cruisers, or landing ships, plus the 3rd ship, plus the Dwight D. Eisenhower, by Lebanon to help with evacuations is fairly harebrained. It's like a Roadrunner cartoon, okay? They've been screaming to the people in Lebanon, to their Americans, don't go to Lebanon, like many countries are. Then the ones in Lebanon, they're telling them to get out. The 2 messages go hand in hand. So most of the people that have American citizenship, as well as Lebanese or something, aren't going to wait till they see the bombs falling. They'd be leaving last week. They go to Beirut Airport, they book a ticket, they get on a plane. They don't have any money, they go to the American Embassy will loan them money, and they get out of there. That's it. When they evacuate them, they're not taking them to America. What they did after October 7th from countries like they took Americans out of Israel, they transported them to Cyprus. So they took them for free to Cyprus, and then in Cyprus they had to buy their own ticket. Again, if they wanted to borrow money from the government, they probably would have been able to. Normally, I think America would say there's an evacuation deadline of next week. Get out as soon as possible, but make sure it's by next week. Or we can't help you. Countries do that. They say, if you're not out by now, we're not helping you. So this whole story of bringing amphibious carriers to help them, why? The ships are full of soldiers and equipment. Oh, they could probably stuff maybe 200 or 300 people onto the boat, but that's nothing. I don't even think they could do that. Let's see if we can figure out how many Americans are living in Lebanon or in Lebanon. Let's take a look and see if we can get some figures. I have a feeling we're probably going to come up with like 20,000. These are probably Lebanese people that married Americans, and their children and grandchildren and stuff. Okay, this makes the actions of these 2 warships more absurd. 86,000 Americans that are citizens live in Lebanon. I got this from 2 sources dated 2023. In terms of Americans in Israel, it's probably about 250,000. It's high. So, how are they going to evacuate 80,000? Let's say 3,000. Okay. On these 2 amphibious ships. They can't. They can't do it. What are they going to use these soldiers to do? Go to Beirut and secure the airport? and then bring American planes in to evacuate them? How the heck are they going to secure the airport with 3,000 foot soldiers? And with what? These boats don't carry Patriot missile systems, let alone 15 or 20 of them. They don't carry radar. You know, what are they going to? They can't do that. See, the whole thing is fairly illogical. It's a threat level against Lebanon. One of the threats is probably if you're going to shoot at Cyprus or any American warships, we're going to come mow you down. And they would do a heavily armored incursion into Lebanon with the help of Israel. And American jets would be flying in the sky like crazy. They'd probably have 20, 30 jets up all the time. Calling in airstrikes. Even then, the airport would be too hot to land planes in. There'd be lobbing missiles at the airport all day long. See how the story doesn't make sense? They tell the Lebanese people, this is normally what I've seen countries do, including America. Get out now. If you don't get out by Friday, we can't guarantee that we'll be able to help you. We'll always try to help you, but it's quite likely that we won't be able to, and you'll be stuck here. That's how it's done. This is an alibi story to bring the warships close to Lebanon. Okay? And I'll go further and say I think it's bait. They're putting bait out there for Lebanon, for the Hezbollah to attack these ships. If they attack American warships, seriously, they're going to kill soldiers, they can sink the ship. And then Biden's going to have the golden ticket to declare war on Lebanon and the Houthis and Yemen. Now, they may not let the Houthis get away. The Houthis in Yemen, their activities in the last month or 6 weeks have been so outrageous. They have an axe to grind with the Houthis that's like 25 feet long. I mean, they're really after them now. So, if America raises forces from France, from Germany, Italy, England, other countries, they could handle attacking the Houthis and Iran. But we also have to be prepared for the Houthis again attacking the internet cables. They did it already. They broke 4 cables. They disabled a lot of the the SWIFT capability and internet capability. Hold on a second. And they were interfering with basically parts of Africa and Asia. And, it didn't affect America or Europe very much, so you didn't hear about it. But they blew them up. They dropped some sort of explosives down there. And they could do it again and get other cables and disable lots of Europe, lots of the Middle East, and parts of Africa. So Egypt will get it, Saudi will get it, Jordan, You know, some of these countries have cables that go out in the Indian Ocean. Yeah, it's going to be very chaotic. So when they hit Iran, they may decide they got to take the Houthis too. So you know, we're getting to critical mass now. We don't have a lot of time left. You know, and the Lord's merciful, and that's why you read, you know, like the destruction of the daughter of Babylon. You know, it happens suddenly in a day, in an hour, and He shortens the time during these Jacob's trouble, lest no flesh be saved. So, because He loves us that are written in the book of life, we haven't been seeing big drawn out wars, except maybe Ukraine. Big drawn out wars for 6-7 months. We're not seeing that. So it's going to go fast, but He's going to destroy most of the nations, I believe, by fire. Some are also going to be destroyed by fire and the sword. Notably, would be Iran and the United States. None of them are going to survive. Now, let me talk to you a little bit. How do you think Jehovah and Yeshua feel now that all these Muslim terrorist states keep attacking Israel and threatening to annihilate us? They're mad. Jehovah and Yeshua, they're not happy. They're very angry. But what's Jehovah waiting for? In the Bible, there's a theme, and it goes like this: iniquity to the fullness, their lawlessness to the fullness. Let me find you some verses like that, so you can get a good idea of what's cooking. You see, He's a righteous, just God, and He's going to punish them according to what they've done. He's not going to do like what's called, for lack of better words, a preemptive punishment. Say, well, I know what they're going to do, so I'll punish them as if they did it. He won't do that. So He's going to wait for them to do the siege against Israel, which has already started, is well on its way, and try to come in and annihilate us and take the land back. So God can't run the nations through Israel as the head of the nations, with Israel serving Him. And that's exactly what you're seeing right now. Okay? So let's try to find a couple of verses like this in the Bible so you'll get it. Though I gotta look these up. go. Still digging here, guys. Here it is. We see this in Genesis 15:16. A very good scripture here. Genesis 15 and 16. Remember, he's the same yesterday, today, and forever. He does change not. Jehovah doesn't change. But in the fourth generation they shall come hither again, for the iniquity of the Amorites is not yet full. See, he doesn't smack them down till they take their lawlessness to the fullness. That way they get the maximum punishment. To just punish them for what they have in their heart is not really the way Jehovah works. He's going to punish them when they actually try to do it. Well, I think that scripture says it all, okay? So he's waiting for their iniquity to come to the fullness, and that's when they surround it. Oh, Turkey is having a really bad time in Syria. They went into Syria and they're being attacked by the forces that oppose Bashar Assad. Because I believe Turkey gets along with Bashar Assad, I don't think he does very well. But anyway, they're attacking Turkey. So Turkey's having a really bad time there. That was a surprise. To me, I didn't think Turkey was going to get slammed in the head. But apparently they did. So he'll do one of two things. He'll either send more troops in to suppress them with air support and armor, or he'll pull out. I don't know which. He might pull out. Okay, let's cover the Lord of the Harvest, and let's talk about the harvest, because we're right at the verge of the harvest, which is the next great Exodus. See, what happens in a harvest? Well, we'll take the wheat and the tares. You cut the crops, and you have the tares, which is junk, the chaff, and you on the threshing floor, you gather the wheat and put it in the barn. The barn is Israel. That's your next great Exodus. The chaff are the bad ones, and they get burned in the fire. Okay? That's the harvest, and we're headed to that now, which is the next great Exodus, which is going to happen in year of redemption. I can't give you a written guarantee it's going to happen on the first day of redemption, but I believe it would. The day of vengeance is going to be in both years, so it's going to close out the year of recompenses and open up the year of redemption. But we'll still be fighting during the year of redemption. But the believers, and of course we win. the ungodly government with their fake Israel have begun. 1 Corinthians 3, the whole chapter we're going to do. Now, let me check the chat first, make sure I may have some questions or throw some garbage out, whatever they're putting up in the chat. Don't put, somebody's putting multiple posts of the same thing in the chat. That's kind of rude. I'm not going to block you. I'm going to take 2 of your posts off. Okay? Don't do that. You just contaminate, you're just garbaging up. You're still doing it? Okay, I got rid of this. Before we start on that, someone asked me to talk about divorce and remarriage. Okay? Now, this is not an ultra complicated piece of Bible material. Yeshua said that you can divorce for reasons of adultery. Not that you did the adultery, the other spouse did. Adultery means you're going to have sex with a married person. So it means they're going out and having sex with another person. Okay? The other person, if they're married or not married, it's still adultery because they're married. Okay? If they have adultery with another married person, they're compounding their problems by increasing the sins. Okay, but anyway, it's still wrong. It's wrong either way. So if the spouse, irrespective of what they say, I'm a believer, I'm not a believer, it doesn't matter. They go out and commit adultery and you're married, like you're really married. Okay, now there's married and there's married. Then what do we mean? If two people just decide to live together and make it very clear and plain that they're not married, they're just living together, then you don't have adultery, you have fornication. Sex outside the marriage. Okay? So technically it's not adultery unless you would have sex. So two people live together, they make it perfectly plain and clear to each other that they're not married and have no such commitment. and then one of them goes out and has sex with another person who happens to be married to someone else, well, they're committing adultery, okay? But the question revolves around a person that was in a marriage and not in a marriage anymore or whatever. So the other example Paul comes up with, if you're married to an unbeliever and the unbeliever is pleased to dwell with you, you don't divorce. A person not being in the faith and not believing the Bible is no grounds for divorce. Now, there's other implications, like it says there'd be two in the same bed, one is taken and the other is left. Well, you know, that's a good example of what we're talking about, an unbeliever. Or a church unbeliever, more likely. But what if you're married to somebody and you find out they're a witch, or they're serving Satan with knowledge and willingfulness? Can you divorce them? No, you can't. I went through this. I was married to a false believer. When I was a brand new believer, I fell for this, sadly. And it was pretty bad. Okay, she eventually went to court and got an order to throw me out of the house. So the sheriff came and told me I had to leave. And then, I don't know, some days later, she filed divorce on me. So I had a scriptural out from the divorce. Well, what do you mean? Why should you explain? If the unbeliever, which this one was, when I was realizing this, the Lord told me she was, and then I took a voice-activated tape recorder and hid it near the phone, and I recorded her talking to people. I mean, I had her talking to Satan. He was using the name Yehu, I believe it was Satan, and he was talking to her. I had it on tape. I had the schmuck himself on tape. And so that I knew it, but that's not grounds for divorce. That's basically idolatry, okay? So worshiping a demon is the same thing as going to, let's say, setting up a wooden statue of Buddha sitting in a cross-legged position with his big belly, and somebody going and, taking incense and lighting it and putting it in a little cup at the statue, sacrificing incense to Buddha, praying to him, or even leaving an offering there, like liquid or food or some stupid thing like that. Okay, it works. It works for being idolatry. So this is just an idolater, basically. You got to understand that, because you're worshiping something that's not a god. Now, it's also being a witch and a soothsayer and stuff like that. So it's a multiple case of sins. If you're worshiping a statue of Buddha or Kali or one of these other schmuck things, it's straight up idolatry. You're not becoming a witch or anything like that. So anyway, so it's not grounds for divorce. If the unbeliever leaves and doesn't want to dwell with you, then you're under no obligation. Now, what if they say, oh, I'm not divorcing you, I'm just separating from you? Well, if the person's an unbeliever and says that, I believe you can say you're free to go out of the marriage. Now that means they moved out of the house against your wishes. It doesn't mean you threw him out of the house and then said, oh, the person left me. That's wrong. That's not the way to play the game. It's not a game. It's a pretty serious game. I'm just using a figure of speech. It's pretty serious. So if you throw them out, you're not supposed to try to encourage the other person to divorce you. Okay? Now, while all this sounds easy, in my years I've come across a case where these two people were working for federal government as guards of nuclear plants, and the guy was taking his gun and cocking the revolver and sticking it in her mouth. Is she supposed to stay in the marriage? I didn't have to make that decision because she had already left him. Her reasoning, which made good sense, is I'm not supposed to stay there to get tortured and tormented and shot in the head. So, okay, let's say the unbeliever doesn't leave you and just instead wants to send you to the emergency room a few times a year to straighten you out, tunes you up, kicks your ribs, punches you in the nose and the mouth, stomps on you, things like this, right? Are you supposed to stay in the marriage like that? I wouldn't think so. See, there's all kinds of stuff. This is what you need to go to the Lord with. If you get encountered with this, I would go to the Lord, but it doesn't look like it's something you stay in. Now, why is the person beating you? Did you sound them down and curse them out? Did you take some of the person's, let's say they're a lawyer and they got all these suits and they love their suits and getting dressed up and going to court, and you took a scissors, you got mad at him and cut all his suits up. Things like this happen. Women do this. And then he beats you up. Well, I would say it was a provoked attack, and that by itself, I wouldn't necessarily say means to leave. But if the guy just starts telling you, come on, smoke pot, I'm smoking pot, take a few lines of coke, it ain't gonna kill you, come on. Oh, you stupid Christian, boom, you don't drink it, boom, okay, now that's a different thing. That's this idiot trying to drag you into sin, using violence to do it. That is not something you should stay there with if it's with the violence. If it's just, come on, take some coke. No, I don't want it. I don't do that. And there's, okay, suit yourself, be a dumb Christian. That's one thing. Punching you out and kicking you over not doing it, that's different. Okay? So no matter how cool you think you are or you can be with these situations regarding marriage and divorce, I tell you the truth, it's horrifically hard what you come up against. It is. I mean, you need the Lord to tell you what to do. It's so complicated. So, if the spouse just decides that, if let's say you're the guy and you got a woman you're married to, you got a real marriage, and you don't want her, and you start smacking her around, and she says, well, I'm not going to live here anymore with you, you're crazy, separates, and, then you file divorce because, oh, she left me. See, that's perverting the law. Okay? Provoking the person to leave the marriage is perverting, it's twisting the scripture. You don't want to do that. So, if they leave you, they leave you. If they leave you on not with a divorce, but just move out, separation, I think you still have the right to the divorce. Okay? Now, adultery. First thing you gotta know is how the heck do you know they did adultery? Well, he came home and I could see that look on his face. Well, that's not adultery. That's, you think he might have done adultery. You gotta know he did adultery. Okay? How would you know? Well, a number of ways. You might catch him in the act. He may confess it, or she might confess it, or the person they did adultery with might confess it to you, and you have to make sure you believe it to be real, that, they're not just pulling your chain and trying to get you to do stupid things, right? like what? Like, oh, they get you to file a divorce based on a testimony of the non-spouse of somebody else, and then they come back later and say, you dumbbell Christian, I just lied to you so you would have an ungodly divorce. See, if you if you're married to a false believer and the marriage is gone, it's over. You know, like people aren't getting along anymore, stuff like that. It's getting horrible. This person is going to try to do a lot of bad to you. Most of them are not going to pick up a baseball bat and hit you and kick you or punch you. They're going to use sin and spiritual warfare of a satanic nature against you, try to get you to sin against them, and then curse you. Remember, it says a causeless curse shall not come. Proverbs 26 is the first or second verse. So they'll try to do bad things to get you to do bad things. The other problem with hauling off and punching you is you could call the police on them and they'll get in a lot of trouble. Now, if they're in the Trump or the Biden family, maybe they wouldn't get into so much trouble, but just regular, they'll get into a lot of trouble. They could go to jail. So, they'll try all kinds of sick things with you, okay? Now, normally, if you have a rotten spouse that's not into witchcraft, they're just going to go running off in the flesh, you know, oh, I don't need this anymore, you know, I don't love you, I don't want to be with you, I don't like you, I want to leave, divorce me, and then the believer says, no, I can't divorce you, and then they say, well, you know, blah, 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 but they'll just divorce on their own. A non-Satanist bad spouse will just divorce you, they don't care. A false believer will try to get you to do the divorce. Okay? So, it runs like this. Alright? So, are there other reasons for divorce? No. Or, I mean, we could create crazy scenarios. Murder. Like you come home one day and the guy's up on the roof of the house with a rifle shooting people and they walk by in the street, you know. Do you stay in the house? You see, no matter, I wouldn't think you'd stay in the house with this person. No matter how much you think you're good at this and you could, you know, you'll get hit with possibilities that you'll never imagine. One came to me years ago and told me that she was married to a guy that was a cop. I think it was Salt Lake City. She was a believer, a church one anyway, you know, church. And she said that her husband liked to dress up and drag like a woman and wanted to go out with her, but when he would dress up as a woman and it would appear that they're two women going out. And she felt that was sinful to encourage him to cross-dress like this because it's a death penalty offense in the Bible for a person to dress like the opposite sex. So she wouldn't do it and she divorced him. When I heard about it, she had already been divorced. She told me the story, and I'm glad I didn't have to make a cold decision on that one. See, these things are really hard. They're hard. Don't think this stuff is easy. It's anything but easy. You got the cut and dried things, okay, where two people are married, and if they're both trying to walk by the law, by the Bible, they're not going to divorce unless the other one, without any encouragement, commits adultery or just says, I'm moving away from you. You know, that's it. Now, what about if you had a divorce and you got remarried? Well, what kind of a divorce did you have? You know? If you didn't like a person because they, liked to drink a fifth of Johnny Walker when they came home every night and pass out in the easy chair, wake up in the morning, drink 2 pots of coffee, take a hot shower, and go to work, you got tired of that and divorced them. Well, that's not a righteous divorce. Just because they were drunk, they're only destroying themselves, they're not destroying anybody else. What if a guy comes home from work and just decides to eat a lot of bad fats, bad food, GMO food, and all kinds of horrible things, salt and fats and high calories, and just kills himself that way? Drinking the bottle of scotch or doing it that way is going to lead to death. You wouldn't divorce that person if they were just eating too much and gained 60 or 80 pounds. What grounds would you have? Now, they're behaving stupidly. You could try to pray about it. You could try to be nicer to them and encourage them, and many things like that. But it's not a grounds for divorce. Getting fat. Neither is drinking a bottle of scotch every night. Stupid, but it's not grounds for divorce. Drinking a bottle of scotch and then hitting you, yeah. I don't see any reason. You see, it says if the unbeliever is pleased to dwell with you. Okay, those are the words it uses. So, if the guy has 4 or 5 snorts of the Johnny Walker now, broken nose, teeth missing, big welt in the head, broken ribs, is that pleased to dwell with you? Or puts a gun at your head and said, if you don't do this, I'll blow your brains out, you dumb broad, Or a woman doing it to a man. No, that's not pleased to dwell with you. Now, what if the person's a witch and they're cursing you and stuff like that? If you know they're doing it, that's not pleased to dwell with you either, would it be? But they'll continue cursing you if they're not married to you anyway. But the Lord just quickened that to me. I didn't know that when I went through that years ago. So I guess pleased to dwell with you would include spiritual warfare attacks from the Satanists. I didn't know that. It would be the same as punching you in the mouth. That's not pleased to dwell with you. Taking your clothes and your things and throwing them out to punish you, that's not pleased to dwell with you. Okay? Lighting the house on fire, well, that's ridiculous. What about a guy that doesn't work? Well, that I don't think is grounds. Can you stretch it and say, pleased to dwell with you would mean working, and if the person's not working, well, you could, but I think you're on thin ice there. I wouldn't take a chance. Then there's the question, why doesn't the person work? Is the person not working just to provoke you into anger, or did they come back from a war and they're goofy in the head? Are they goofy in the head from some other reason? Are they in pain from some disease? Or are they unable to get a job and they're really looking to get a job? I mean, what's going on? You got to figure that out too. But you got to be careful with this. You could always sit there and make up excuses, okay? But you got to be very, very careful with that. All right? So that's basically it. If they remarry, well, then it can be complicated. If they had a bad divorce, an unbiblical divorce, and they remarried, they would be complicating the divorce. They would be complicating the scenario. In other words, a woman divorces a guy who did not maltreat her. You know, the guy just worshipped her, was always nice and polite to her, and did the right things, and she just felt he was a boring Christian and wanted no part of it, you know, and she divorces him. She's not a believer, but she'll marry whoever the heck she wants if she wants to get married again. So let's say that a person's a believer and they divorce another person they were married to for grounds, for biblical grounds, and they get remarried. Well, by itself, they're okay. If they remarried a person that had a bad divorce previously and it was unbiblical and they were a believer, well, then they're getting into adultery by marrying someone that was incorrectly divorced. You see how thick this gets? It's really thick. Okay? It's not easy. It's thick. And you gotta have a relationship with the Lord to make sure you don't mess this stuff up. And you gotta be careful because you're dealing with people talking to you about third parties that you don't know, and you don't know what's true or what's not true. You gotta be extremely careful. Or you wind up getting deceived, which is a bad thing. So you gotta use extreme caution when you get into this world here, or you'll be real sorry. Very sorry. So you gotta watch yourself, okay? So we could sit here and, you know, if you were never married and you married somebody who was a believer and had an unscriptural divorce that they provoked, if the other party provoked the unscriptural divorce by doing adultery, let's say, it's not on the believer, they could remarry. But if you never being married a person who was a believer who initiated a divorce, breaking the law to do it, then you could be in an adultery as well. Well, I think the important thing here to remember is that divorce is not the unforgivable sin. That's blaspheming the Holy Spirit. Okay, so where are we at? I guess that's it. So my bottom line is know your facts and make sure they're facts, not speculations. Definitely go to the Lord about this. And if you don't get an answer, keep going to the Lord till you get an answer, unless the answer is so obvious that you don't want to recognize it. And just remember, it's a very, very complicated thing. Okay? It at times can be very cut and dry and easy. And at times it could be amazingly complicated. Okay? I think I gave you some examples of that. So don't ever get confident and think you know what you're doing with this. It's really rough. And that's why I don't like doing counseling long distance. I do it occasionally, but I just try to use the scriptures to advise people. Because trying to do counseling long distance is a dumb idea. Because you got to know all the parties involved yourself. You've got to be able to talk to them. You can't just take one person's side, because you're not going to see the whole picture. You're just going to see the part that one person wants to portray to you, or the part that one person is aware of, and they might not even be aware of some of these other things. So you got to watch yourself with this one, okay? All right, let's see if we got any questions or foulness in the chat that I got to get rid of. Let's see. All right. Okay. All right, where were we? So we were going to 1 Corinthians 3. And I, brethren, could not speak unto you as unto spiritual, but as unto carnal, even as unto babes in Messiah. I have fed you with milk and not with meat, for hitherto... Is this where I want to be? Wait a second. Hold on, I want to double check my notes. Yes, I'm good. Okay. I have fed you with milk and not with meat. The milk means the easy scriptures, the basics, right? Who Yeshua is, dying from the dead, all this kind of stuff, right? The meat are the more sophisticated studies, prophecies and stuff. For hitherto you were not able to bear it, neither yet now are you able. So, you don't want to, get somebody who's been in the faith 30 days and start trying to, explain the complicated prophecies to them. They got, they're better off reading, the four Gospels and the letters to the churches and stuff like that for a while, For you are yet carnal. For whereas there is among you envying and strife and divisions. Now, divisions is a denomination. I'm with Apollos, I'm with Cephas, I'm with the Assemblies of God, I'm a Baptist, same garbage. Are you not carnal and walk as men? That's the whole church world. They're all in divisions and variants. They're carnal. They're heathen, really. They're not saved. For while one saith, I am of Paul, and another, I am of Apollos, are you not carnal? I am a Catholic, I'm a Presbyterian, I'm a Lutheran, I'm, this and that. Same thing, carnal. Who then, not in the spirit, in the flesh, who then is Paul and who is Apollos, but ministers by whom you believed, even as the Lord gave to every man. I have planted, Apollos watered. I have planted, okay, and then it says Apollos watered, but God gave the increase. So then neither is he that planteth anything, neither he that watereth, but God that gives the increase. Now he that planted and he that watereth are one, and every man shall receive his own reward according to his own labor. So planted the seed in the ground. Then he goes away, he goes to work someplace else. Who watereth it? Who waters it? The people that are like pastors or the Levites or the Kohanim, or they're going to counsel and teach and lead and help and encourage. Okay? They're watering it so the seed will grow to life and bring forth more seed and the kingdom of God grows. Okay? For we are laborers together with God. You are God's husbandry. That means you're taking care of the crops. You are God's building. The word there means a building. And what that's telling us is you're the temple of the Holy Spirit. And you'll see sometimes it says temple of God in the form of a Ruach HaKodesh. Yeah, the glory of God of Israel does not indwell any person ever. Okay? According to the grace of God, which is given unto me as a wise master builder, I have laid the foundation, and another buildeth thereon. But let every man take heed how he buildeth hereupon. For other foundation can no man lay than that is laid, which is Yeshua HaMashiach. So whatever you're going to do, you have to build it on Yeshua HaMashiach. So the rabbis ain't getting anywhere. And the churches aren't either, because they're not building on Yeshua HaMashiach. They're building on their other Jesus, who's not Yeshua HaMashiach. Got it? Now, if any man build upon this foundation gold, silver, precious stones, wood, hay, and stubble, every man's work shall be made manifest. For the day shall declare it, because it shall be revealed by fire. And the fire shall try every man's work of what sort it is. So, if you're building your works on earth, your house, your farm, your shoe factory, your aluminum foil plant, your car manufacturing, your rubber tire company, it's going to get burned up by fire, and what you're going to have left is nothing. Nothing. If you build your treasures in heaven and you're leading people to the gospel, helping people, trying to get them to stop sinning and eliminate sins and things like this, you're building your treasures up in heaven, where the mold and the mildew's not there and the thief doesn't steal, and you'll get great rewards. The people that are building their treasures here on earth get the Hebrew word ephes, which is zero. Their works get burned up in the judgment. They get burned up on earth, and there's nothing left in the judgment. Yet if you were leading people to the gospel, helping people come out of sin, stuff like that, that work does not get burned up, and it goes to your credit, and you get great rewards for eternity. First Corinthians 3:14. If any man's work abide, which he hath built thereupon, he shall receive a reward. Well, the only way it's going to abide is if it doesn't get burned up. So if you did real spiritual work, not carnal flesh work, that gets burned up, you'll have nothing for the judgment, but your work will not get burned up, and you will have rewards for your work, because it's of a spiritual nature. So if any man's work abideth, which he hath built thereupon, he shall receive a reward. Remember, the one that gives a prophet a glass of cold water shall receive a prophet's reward. See, God's got plenty of rewards. He doesn't run out, and he'll load you up in heaven. But also he says, if you gave up houses, mothers, fathers, you'll be given more 100-fold in this time and in the age to come, everlasting life. So you get a lot from the Lord. He's very generous and merciful to those he loves, extremely so. Skip to the next chapter. I gotta find my place. If any man's work shall be burned, he shall suffer loss, but he himself shall be saved, yet so as by fire. Though the dross will be burned out of him, but he can be saved, but his works were destroyed. His factories, his house, his car, his clothes. So he's not going to get any rewards, but having these things and putting your time and energy in it is not necessarily going to drag you to hell. Okay. Verse 16. Know you not that you are the temple of God, and that the Spirit of God dwelleth in you. So what he's saying, you're the temple of God because you have the Holy Spirit dwelling in you. You got it? Now the Satan bots with the demon, they have an unclean spirit dwelling in them. So they're the temple of Satan, would they not be? By you, you know what I mean? I'm just playing around with you, but you see my point? If any man defile the temple of God, him shall God destroy, for the temple of God is holy, which temple you are, because the Holy Spirit is in there. But the word being used is defile, not kill or destroy. Defile would mean drag into sin, I think. Okay. Destroy would mean murder you or something. Defile wouldn't. Let no man deceive himself. If any man among you seemeth to be wise in this world, let him become a fool, that he may be wise. So he's saying, the one that's good and adept at the things of the world, making money, how the world operates, and all this stuff. It's just foolishness. It's not going to get you anywhere. He taketh the wise in their own craftiness. And again, Jehovah knoweth the thoughts of the wise, that they are vain. Oh yeah. Therefore let no man glory in men, for all things are yours. Whether Paul or Apollos or Cephas or the world or life or death or things present or things to come, all are yours. You see, So it says, whether Paul, or Apollos, or Cephas, or the world, or life, or death, of things present or things to come, all are yours. You get everything because Yeshua will share with you as his brethren. You have it all. And you're going to be experiencing the very beginning of this in the next few weeks when we get into year of redemption, and you're going to get your land back. You're going to get a good chunk of prime Israeli land, and you know what your mortgage interest rate is going to be? 0. Why is it going to be 0? Because there's not going to be any mortgage. Are you going to have to buy the land? No. Who's going to take your money? Nobody. What if there happens to be a house full of furniture on it? Well, duh, it's yours. What if they left a few cars there? Well, they're yours. What if there's a safe with jewelry and stuff in it? It goes with the house. It's yours. It's yours. What if it's full of expensive clothing? It's yours. And you are Christ, and Christ is God's. Good one, huh? Okay, let's keep going. John 4:35. Say not you, there are yet 4 months, and then cometh harvest. Behold, I say unto you, lift up your eyes and look on the fields, for they are white. They're white already to harvest. And he that reapeth receiveth wages, and gathereth fruit unto life eternal, that both he that soweth and he that reacheth may rejoice together. So what he's saying, there is no such thing as eternal papaya or lemons or apples, okay? The seed and the planting and sowing is and the watering is an allegory using the agriculture to teach you about salvation and ministry. So he that reapeth receiveth wages. That means you're going to get a reward for reaping. You're reaping in the harvest. Okay, someone else planted the seed, someone else watered the seed to keep it in the faith and keep it going, and then someone going to go in the harvest. Receiveth wages and gathereth fruit unto life eternal, that both he that soweth and he that reapeth may rejoice together. So they're both going to get the reward. So if you just planted the seed, or you water it, or you reap it, all of you all are going to get the reward for bringing that person or persons into the kingdom of God. You're all going to be rewarded. And these are the rewards that don't get burned up. If you knock your lights out in industry and business, and you've got mansions and yachts, they're going to get burned up. You're going to get bupkis, nothing. Bupkis is a Yiddish word that means nothing, like the Hebrew word ephes. Or you could say it's the whole of the bagel. And herein is that saying true. Is that saying true? One soweth and another reapeth. Okay? So the guy that's good at sowing the seeds, preaching the gospel like an evangelist, and the soweth would be more like, would be more like that, and a reaper would be bringing them into the harvest, which you guys might be doing in the next few weeks. I'm getting ahead of myself. I sent you to reap that whereon you bestowed no labor. Other men laboreth, and you are entered into their labor. So they were preaching the gospel. Maybe it's your time to come reaping. It's to lead them into Christ, into the Messiah. That could be reaping too. Again, you might be doing that real soon. Okay, more scriptures. Matthew 9:37 and 38. Matthew 9:37, 38. Okay. Then saith he unto his disciples, the harvest truly is plenteous, but the laborers are few. Pray you therefore the Lord of the harvest So the harvest is plentiful. And the laborers are few. This harvest is going to be plentiful, and there's not many laborers, so what's your role in it? I could kind of make up a term and say that your receiver's kind of sort of a first fruit of the true gospel, but the real first fruit of the true gospel was before the 2,000-year punishment, I guess, or right after the resurrection of Yeshua, when they received the Holy Spirit, and then they started, setting up congregations and stuff like that. But then, for these days, you guys would be like the first fruits of that. We could say I was, but, So I think you're going to have a role in the coming, I wouldn't say months anymore, I would say days and weeks, either in Israel or in whatever country you're in. This is going to be a tremendous state of confusion amongst a lot of people. Now, the ones that are going to see the sign of the Son of Man in the clouds and be changed to everlasting life, they're going to have the mind of Christ. Remember, it says, they shall all know me from the least to the greatest. So they're going to know things, but are they going to be able to read the prophecies and just get them like that? Maybe they'll have the mind of Christ. But I think there'll be a need for older, more mature believers that know the scriptures better to help out. I think so. I'm pretty sure. Luke 10:2. You'll have a role. Quickly, too. Therefore said he unto them, the harvest truly is great, but the laborers are few. Pray you therefore the Lord of the harvest, that he would send forth laborers into his harvest. Jehovah is the Lord of the harvest. Remember, he talks about a parable with a field, and he says, oh, surely I'll send my son, they'll listen to him, but they killed the son to keep the inheritance. Okay, the Lord of the harvest is Jehovah. Go your ways, behold, I send you forth as lambs among the wolves. Carry neither purse nor scrip, nor shoes, and salute no man by the way. What does salute mean? 782 in Strong's. To greet. Greet no man on the way. Now, why did he say this? Because of 2 John 9:11, which the church is completely unaware of. Whosoever transgresseth and abideth not in the doctrine of Christ hath not God. Do the churches, all 2 billion of them, abide in the doctrine of Christ? No, they do not. That's why he said in Matthew 7, not everyone who comes to me and says, Lord, Lord, but we did mighty works in your name. We cast out devils in your name. We prophesied in your name. Get out of here. I never knew you. Go to the lake of fire. He that abideth in the doctrine of Christ, he hath both the Father and the Son. That's you guys. If there come any unto you and bring not this doctrine, receive him not unto your house, neither bid him Godspeed. Bidding him Godspeed is saluting him on the way. For he that biddeth him Godspeed is partaker of his evil deeds. So what they started with the old Bell telephone system is they started people answering the phone. They had people used to have different ways of answering the phone. A lot of people in Israel pick up the phone and say, Mise, who's this? And that's a very good one. Or you can say, this is Moshe. Moshe here. Can I help you? But don't say hello. Satan got all the people to do that, hello, and then the telemarketers are frequently people that don't know any better, can't get a good job, and find something that's going to make themselves miserable. But there's others that are Satan bots, and they make a lot of money at it. And they wait for the people to say hello. And if they got their sin and they move in. And does it work if the person's an unbeliever and gives them the hello and gets the sin out that way? Yeah. If an unbeliever commits murder, or is he exempt? Or adultery, is he exempt? Of course not. It makes it easier for Satan and the witches to get to them. So that's why Yeshua told them not to greet anybody on the way. And he told it to us, and go try to find a church that teaches that. You die of old age before you get there. You'll exceed Rip Van Winkle's beard before you find one. I'm just kidding you. Okay, you won't find them teaching that. They don't do it. Where was I? Salute no man by the way. Okay, and verse 6, Luke 10, 5 rather, Luke 10, 5. And into whatsoever house you enter, first say, peace be to this house. Shalom. And if the Son of Peace, that's Yeshua, be there, in other words, there's believers in the house, your peace shall rest upon it. If not, it shall turn to you again, come back to you. So you're not going to learn this stuff unless you start practicing it. Then you'll learn how to discern. And ask the Lord to help you in detail with this. And you'll get the hang of it. You're never going to hear this spoken in the church. People would do it to the pastor's house, and they'd say, what the heck? My spirit, my shalom came back at me, And in the same house remain eating, drinking such things as they give. For the laborer, stupid iPad jumped on me again. For the laborer is worthy of his hire. Okay, so when you're working with the gospel and ministry for Yeshua, you're worthy of his hire. Now that doesn't apply to the people that listen to me, because I think 90% of them never give an offering. It does apply to them, but they don't think it does. Okay. Go not from house to house. In other words, don't cherry pick your house, you know, and into whatsoever city you enter, and they receive you, eat such things as are set before you. So you don't want to go to Beverly Hills where they're going to feed you with fine wine and, you know, expensive Japanese Kobe beef. And, you know, you go to a poorhouse and you're going to eat, you know, Winn-Dixie hamburgers. You stay with it. And heal the sick that, Winn-Dixie's a cheap supermarket chain. And heal the sick that are therein, and say unto them, the kingdom of God is come nigh unto you. Heal the sick. The church do that? Of course not. And say unto them, the kingdom of God is near unto thee, unto you. But into whatsoever city you enter, and they receive you not, go your ways out. In other words, leave. Into the streets, go into the streets of the same city and say, even the very dust of your city which cleaveth on us, we do wipe off against you. Notwithstanding, be you sure of this, that the kingdom of God is come nigh unto you. But I say unto you that it shall be more tolerable in that day for Sodom than for that city. Because Sodom never had the New Testament. Okay? You could do that, and you may have an opportunity to do that soon. But that too is not going to be taught by the church. Unless they can teach it to you with the false gospel and the false Jesus and stuff like that. Woe unto thee, Chorazin! Woe unto thee, Bethsaida! For if the mighty works had been done in Tyre and Sidon, which have been done in you, they had a great while ago repented, sitting in sackcloth and ashes. But it shall be more tolerable for Tyre and Sidon at the judgment than for you. And thou, Capernaum, which art exalted to heaven, shall be thrust down to hell. He that heareth you heareth me, and he that despiseth you despiseth me. Now, that's not, of course, they're despising you because you stay up late at 2 o'clock in the morning and turn your stereo up so loud you jolt them out of bed. That wouldn't be applicable. They despise you because of the Ruach HaKodesh, and you're in Yeshua, and the light hurts their eyes, the light from you. That's what it's talking about. Because you could always make a pain in the neck out of yourself, and they're going to hate you for your own flesh deeds. But that's not what we're talking about here. And you shouldn't be blasting stereos to bother your neighbors anyway. That despiseth you despiseth me, and he that despiseth me despises him that sent me. So they're an enemy of God. And that means our neighbors despise us in Israel, and they're an enemy of God. And that they don't have an exemption for those in Israel that believe in Yeshua HaMashiach. No, they'll put you in an oven just as quick as anybody else. And the 70 returned again with joy, saying, Lord, even the devils are subject unto us. Subject means they're submitted to you. The power you have goes beyond, hey, unclean spirit, get out of Mary over here now, B'Shem Yeshua HaMashiach. No, it goes much deeper. I'm going to show you. through thy name. And he said unto them, I beheld Satan as lightning fall from heaven. So this is about 2,000 years ago, and Yeshua was talking in the past tense. He saw Satan get thrown out of heaven. So it happened a long time ago. Behold, when he was down on earth and he tempted Yeshua, he took him to the mountain top and showed him all the city, the things in the world, and said, just worship me, I'll give all this to you, and I have the power to give it to you. So he got the power because he was thrown down to the earth. He's on the earth. Behold, I give unto you power to tread on serpents and scorpions. Now, what he's talking to you about here is not picking up a rattlesnake and dancing around in some dirt road church somewhere. That's not what he's talking about. He's talking about when the pit opens and the smoke comes up and the locusts come that have tails like scorpions and tails like serpents, and they hurt the people. You could tread on them. They're not going to hurt you. And over all the power of the enemy. So the enemy is going to send this great powerful thing out of the pit where the beast is, and you're going to tread on these little critters, but the people aren't. They're going to get tormented badly, but not you, because you can tread on all the power of the enemy. So it says, give unto you power to tread on serpents and scorpions, and over all the power of the enemy, and nothing shall by any means hurt you. So the demons can't come back at you. Oh, you threw me out of Tommy over there, now I'm going to kill you. They can't do that. Believe me, they don't have power. That's why they resort to deception and lying. Nothing, you don't get any retaliation from the unclean spirits. Now, I'll tell you some experiences. Let's say you're working for somebody, and they got a demon, and you throw the unclean spirits out of them, and they get infuriated and fire you. Well, they can do that. They're your employer, they want to fire you, they can fire you. Can the demon take retaliation against you? No. One thing I find that tends to work, instead of just saying, I command you unclean spirits to depart from, John Doe now, B'Shem Yeshua Mashiach. I command you unclean spirits to depart from John Doe now, and go to the place where unclean spirits go when they're thrown out of somebody right now, and stay there for 5 years, beginning right now, B'Shem Yeshua HaMashiach. Putting the 5 years, I'm not saying 50 years, I said 5 years, on it seems to have an effect. Try it, you won't be sorry. Notwithstanding this, rejoice not that the spirits are subject unto you, but rather rejoice because your names are written in heaven. Is tossing unclean spirits a good deed, a good work? Sure. Romans 16, or Mark 16 rather. These signs shall follow those that believe in my name, they shall toss out devils. So why would Yeshua tell you to do it? It would be a sign of those that believe, and then you're not supposed to do it. Did he say you could toss out devils but not more than 3 a day? No, you got an unlimited amount. Isaiah 32. This I think you'll like, it's prophecy, and it fits for today. Behold, a king shall reign in righteousness, and princes shall rule in judgment, and a man shall be as a hiding place from the wind, and a covert from the tempest, as rivers of water in a dry place, as the shadow of a great rock in a weary land. And the eyes of them that see shall not be dim. and the ears of them that hear shall hearken. So he's saying those that he made blind, that he made deaf, the Israelites are now not going to be blind and deaf. Okay? Setting the stage, if you will, for the timing here. The heart also of the rash shall understand knowledge, and the tongue of the stammerers shall be ready to speak plainly. The vile person shall be no more called liberal. That's how it works, isn't it? Amazing that's in the Bible for thousands of years. Nor the curl said to be bountiful. The scoundrel, the curl. For the vile person will speak villainy, and his heart will work lawlessness, to practice hypocrisy, and to utter error against Jehovah, to make empty the soul of the hungry, and he will cause the drink of the thirsty to fail. Make empty the soul of the hungry, and he will cause the drink of the thirsty to fall. It's obviously punishment, I would say. The instruments also of the curl are evil. He devises wicked devices to destroy the poor with lying words, even when the needy speaketh right. They go after the poor all the time, these wicked countries. They thrive on it. But the liberal deviseth liberal things, and by liberal things shall he stand. That's where you get all your trouble from, the left-wing liberals, right? Rise up, you women that are at ease. Hear my voice, you careless daughters. Give ear unto my speech. Many days and years shall be troubled, you careless woman, for the vintage shall fail, the gathering shall not come. Tremble, you women that are at ease. Be troubled, you careless ones. Strip you and make you bare, and gird sackcloth upon your loins. The women that are at ease. Those are like the wealthy, married to the Satan bots, or they're Satan bots. I'm going to take a fast break and come back real quick, not long. I forget, my wife told me something that's interesting. The new moon, the Kodesh, not the full moon, the new moon sliver, it's coming up in a couple of days, a few days, and it's supposedly going to be seen in the morning hours, not at night. I think she said like 4 or 5 a.m., something like that. So that means it's going to have a tremendously bright luminescence, you would say, a luminescence to be seen at that hour. It's not going to still be dark. I got the understanding it'll be bright out when it comes. She said that she never saw anything like this in the 10 years or so she's been spotting the new moon in Israel. Now, I know there's been times in my life where I've seen the moon during the early morning, in the daytime, or in the morning itself, but not the Kodesh, not the new moon sliver, a real big hunk of the moon. So this is a little bit different. It is different, not a little bit different, it's quite different. I don't know what the implication of this is, I honestly don't know. Tremble, you women that are at ease, those are the rich fat cats. Be troubled, you careless ones. Strip you and make you bare, and gird sackcloth upon your loins. And it sounds like Isaiah 47. They shall lament for the teats, for the pleasant fields, for the fruitful vine. The good stuff they used to ain't coming. Upon the land of my people shall come up thorns and briars, yea, upon all the houses of joy in the joyous city, because the palaces shall be forsaken, the multitude of the city shall be left, the forts and the towers shall be for dens forever. A joy of wild asses, a pasture of flocks. This is not today, this is in the past. Until the Spirit be poured upon us from high, and the wilderness be a fruitful field, and the fruitful field be counted for a forest. Okay, so quick challenge. Until the Spirit be poured upon us from high. He's talking about redemption here. Let me give you this scripture. And I will pour upon the house of David and upon the inhabitants of Jerusalem the spirit of grace and of supplication, and they shall look upon me whom they have pierced, and they shall mourn for him as one mourneth for his only son, shall be in bitterness for him as one that is in bitterness for firstborn. Okay, that's what he's talking about. Okay, surprise. We'll read it again. Until the Spirit be poured upon us from high, and the wilderness be fruitful field, that's what's going to happen, and the fruitful field be counted for a forest. Then judgment shall dwell in the wilderness, and righteousness remain in the fruitful field. And the work of righteousness shall be peace, and the effect of righteousness quietness and assurance forever. That's the sign of the believers. There'll be a peace and quiet. They're not going to be proud and boast and stuff like that. And my people shall dwell in a peaceable habitation and in sure dwellings and in quiet resting places. So, keep going. When it shall hail coming down on the forest, and the city shall be low in a low place, blessed are you that sow beside all waters, that send forth thither the feet of the ox and the ass. I'm not sure I know the last verse meaning. Okay. So I hope you enjoyed that. Let me look at the chat, see what's cooking there. Alright, I threw some of the garbage out. I don't know why these guys, they come in here to make insults, where they really think it bothers us. I don't know. You know, I can't make much sense out of them, I guess. Alright, so that's what I got for today. And I hope you enjoyed it, at least some anyway. Thank you for those sending offerings, much appreciated. We're trying to stockpile up food and make some provision for power if possible, if the power gets taken out. I'm still not sure what's going to happen with Lebanon, how bad the war will be, if it'll be that bad. It may not be bad at all. I don't know what's going to happen. I'll keep asking, we'll keep praying that we get an answer, if you don't mind, that he shows me what's going to happen with Lebanon and the other countries. I know we're going to have the siege, which is not so much an invasion but a surrounding, and that looks like all the pieces are coming to play. And I think Biden's going to go gunning for Iran real quickly. When the sleeper agents get launched in America, America may cancel the internet because they may be using the internet to communicate with each other and coordinate various kinds of attacks and tactical moves. Israel may do the same if we get invaded. So just bear that in mind. So pray for me and my wife for our peace, safety, protection, and joy and healing of our bodies, and pray for our animals and pets that are all rescues. They be happy, healthy, and whole. Pray for our finances and health, and pray for the peace of Jerusalem, and pray for better videos. And we're in the final stretch now. And while we know in general what's going to happen, we don't have all the tiny little pieces of the puzzle. We just got a general picture, so it's, trying to figure out what's going to happen is tough. But it would be very hard for me to believe we're not right close to Zechariah 12:10. Look at what's going on. Look at what's going on. So that's it, and I send my shalom to all those who love Yeshua HaMashiach. And we were. Not quite 3 hours. Okay. I think all that red light stuff's really jacked up my energy. I like it. Okay, I'm out. Thank you. Well, I think I'm out. I gotta get this.